So a lot of time when you guys are spiking, you're told to open up, but not a lot of you are opening up in the right way. The purpose of opening up is so that you can rotate back and get a lot of power. If you're just opening up and bringing your hips with you, then you're not actually getting what's called separation, where then you can get the pre-stretches in the torso rotators and power the spiking sequence. Okay, what you want is when you jump, right, you're opening up, you're still rotating back, but you want to make sure that your hips are more forward than your torso. So your torso is actually rotating more back as you go into the pullback, and that means you're getting more true rotation. Athletes and coaches out there, when you're telling people to open up, make sure that they're actually getting that true separation and make sure that they actually have the range to get into that position as well. And here's a test that you can do to see how much hip and shoulder separation you actually have. So what you're gonna do, you're just gonna get down onto the floor, all right? Make sure your knees are straight, okay? You're gonna make sure your heels are on your butt here like this. And then from here, you're gonna bring your arms up and then you're gonna rotate as much as you can, okay? Keep your gaze forward and rotate as much as you can, all right? If you can get to about 90 degrees, 70 to 90 degrees, that's really good hip and shoulder separation. If you're only getting to about this in your true rotation test, then that tells me that when coaches tell you to open up, that you're not getting that true separation. Here are some drills that you can do to help it out. So the first one is going to be the wall pullback drill. And what you're going to do is you're going to get down onto your knee. This is a half kneeling stance with the same side leg up. You're going to get into this position. You're going to make sure that you're about a foot off of the wall. And then you're going to bring your arms up here and go into your pullback while keeping your leg straight or keeping your knee straight, okay? I'm going to pull back and open up, right? I don't want my knee to come out here like this as I'm pulling back, and I'm going to pull back as much as I can, okay? Now the reason for this is because this is going to isolate that hip and shoulder separation. It's going to bias our hips to be more forward, all right? If we go like this and if we try to do that wall pullback, my hip is going to still open up and I'm not going to isolate the separation. What this is also doing is working on your pullback technique and the timing of your opposite arm as well. Some of you that don't have that rotation, this is going to be really hard and you're going to want to open up. So I want you to work within the range that you have and try to improve that mobility. If you were to bring your same side leg down, if I don't have this range but I'm going all the way back here, this is giving me fake rotation. This is not true rotation because my hip is facing there and my torso is facing there. But this is a good way that you can progress and challenge the demand for separation to keep that separation, right? Because in the air, we're not gonna have our right leg forward, right? We're gonna be more so like this in this position here, and we're gonna be challenging ourselves to keep this hip more forward, right? So this is a progression, right? If you're feeling like your separation is good, you wanna try to maintain it in that pullback. Right, so what you're gonna do is instead of letting that hip come out, you're gonna keep it more forward as you go into your pullback position, all right? See how my hip is more forward here. So this is a great drill if you're lacking the hip and shoulder separation, you're lacking that true rotation, right? And it's a good way to apply your hip and shoulder separation or that true rotation to the actual technique. But if you're somebody who had significant rotation in the true rotation test, but you're still not getting hip and shoulder separation in the actual spike, then that tells me it's more of a coordination issue. So I would still actually do this drill for that person so that they can build that coordination within the spiking sequence, right? So I can have them start here and just get what it feels like to keep their hip forward as they're going into that pullback sequence, right? And then when that gets easier, then I would challenge it by keeping this leg down now and then get them to challenge keeping that hip and shoulder separation while doing the spiking sequence. The more times they do it, the easier it's going to get, the more it's going to build that pattern. Then from there, then you can actually work on the forward actions of the spiking sequence. So for this one, you're going to go back into that wall pullback, and then from here, your opposite arm is going to drop, and that's going to assist that torso rotation, right? And that side bend, and then you're going to bring your hitting arm up and around, keep it bent, and then stop here. All right, and then you're gonna go back. You're working on that timing of that opposite arm and how it assists that torso rotation, but also using that torso rotation within the reverse S curve and how it's used within that actual spike. Because what some people lack is they lack the actual coordination of using their torso within the spike. So this is a really good way to just isolate it, control it, and train it so that they can ingrain that pattern and remember what it feels like. And then when they go into the actual spike, then they can apply that to the actual spike on the ground first and then gradually in the air. So the next drill is gonna be a spike throw, all right? So now you're actually gonna be working on using that spiking sequence while throwing something, okay? So we're gonna go into that same stance, half kneeling stance with the same side leg up, and then we're gonna go into our spike. So we're gonna start with our arms up, pull back, go into your pull back, making sure that you're keeping that separation. And then from here, what you're gonna do is then bring your opposite arm down, and we're gonna do the forward actions of the spiking sequence. So the opposite arm's gonna come down, and we're gonna focus on using that torso rotation, bringing the arm up and around and that hand back, and then throwing. All right, I want you to make sure that you're doing it slow first so that you can actually practice using the forward actions of the spiking sequence to power the arm, because what some people can do is they're not used to actually using this torso rotation. One, if they don't have that range and then they got this new range, or if they have the range already but they're not using it within the spiking sequence, right? So they need to relearn, or they need to learn what it's like to be in this position and then actually use this stretch that we get from pulling back and getting that separation, okay? So you're gonna go really slow, right? And then work on actually using that, making sure you're staying long within the spiking sequence or long in the arm. Opposite arm comes down, hitting arm comes up and around, elbow goes forward and up, hand goes back, and then we release. All right, now then when that gets easy, then you can go switch back into this progression now. This is the same side leg down. And then again, you're challenging that hip and shoulder separation. You're trying to maintain that, because when I rotate, my hip can also rotate with me here, okay? So what I want to do is as I rotate back, right, I can have a slight hip flexion here so that I can get a little bit of that hip shift. And then from here, I want to make sure that I'm keeping that separation. Okay, so I'm not going like this, right? I want to rotate back and maintain that separation as I do my hip shift, and then use that into my spiking sequence as I do my forward actions of the spiking sequence. And then from there, we can go into tall kneeling as well. Now we're in a more airborne specific position, and then we can focus on more fluidity of the arm and going for more speed while keeping that spiking sequence. And you don't need a heavy ball for this. It's a light-weighted ball, but you can use a tennis ball, you can use a wiffle ball. You're just working on the technique for this one. The next one is going to be an airborne spike throw. The reason why we're doing airborne spike throws now is so that we can practice applying that pattern that we built on the floor, on the ground, now in the air. We're trying to remember the feeling that we got in the wall pullback drill, in the half kneeling spike throws. We're trying to now apply those feelings into the spike in the air. Okay, you're gonna have less time in the air, so it's really important to practice applying this in this specific situation without focusing on timing or accuracy, contact of the ball. You're just focusing on that feeling in the air. And this one, it's really simple. You're going to do your spike approach, whether it's a 3-step or a 4-step, right? You're going to do your full spike approach, and as soon as you jump, you're going into your pullback, and now I wanna make sure that I'm getting my full separation, my true rotation range, right? And then applying that same sequence that I practiced on the floor. Now, if you're a beginner, I wouldn't do this from start to finish. I wouldn't do them one after the other. I would stay in one drill, so the wall pullback drill, I'd stay there for a couple weeks and make sure that you're going through the progressions of that drill and trying to ingrain that pattern. You don't need to rush it. Then from there, I would go into the spike throws, right? Again, stay there for maybe a week or two, and then you can start applying it to the actual airborne spikes. And then from there, then you can start treating it more as like a primer to go into the airborne spike throws. But if you just go into the spike throws in the air and you don't give yourself that time that you need to build that pattern and remember what it feels like, you're not going to actually be able to get the feeling that you would have if you took the time to build that pattern on the floor. Okay, so don't rush it. Take the time that you need to build that pattern. So those are 3 drills that you can do to help improve that true rotation that you have, right? But then also work on applying this range that you have into the spiking sequence so that you can get more power and so that you can actually open up and get this true rotation, right? That would give you more power in your spike.